It is one of the most beautiful coins America ever made, and it is named after the wrong god. The public called it the Mercury dime, after the swift Roman messenger with wings on his hat. But the figure on the coin is not Mercury. It isn't even a man. And the truth of who she really was, the artist took with him to his grave. The story begins with a deadline written into law. By 1916, the dime, quarter, and half-dollar, designed decades earlier by the Mint's chief engraver, Charles Barber, had been in circulation for 25 years, long enough that the Treasury could replace them without asking Congress. The Barber coins were competent but stiff and old-fashioned, rooted in a stuffier century. So the Treasury Secretary held a competition among a handful of sculptors to reimagine all three silver coins at once. The man who won was Adolph Weinman, a German-American sculptor who had immigrated as a teenager and studied under the great Augustus St. Gaudens. Weinman did so well in the competition that he walked away with two of the three coins, the dime and the half-dollar. That half-dollar became the Walking Liberty, whose design is so beloved it still appears today on the American Silver Eagle. And the dime he created in that same burst of work has been called one of the finest small coins in the history of American money. 1916 was an extraordinary year for American coinage, and Weinman sat at the center of it. Now, the mystery of her face. Weinman's Liberty wears a soft Phrygian cap, an ancient symbol of freedom, the cap once given to freed slaves in Rome, and on that cap a pair of small wings. Weinman said the wings stood for liberty of thought, freedom of the mind. But the American public took one look at the winged headdress and decided they were looking at Mercury, the winged messenger of the gods. The nickname stuck instantly. It appeared in newspapers within weeks. And more than a century later, even serious collectors still call it the Mercury dime, though they know full well it depicts a woman, not a god. And who was the woman? Weinman never said. He never publicly named his model, and remarkably, no one ever stepped forward to claim it was her. But there is a powerful and persistent belief among historians. Weinman is thought to have based the portrait on a bust he had sculpted in 1913 of a woman named Elsie Stevens. Elsie and her husband had rented an apartment from Weinman for years, and her husband happened to be Wallace Stevens, a quiet insurance lawyer at the time, who would go on to become one of the most celebrated American poets of the 20th century. So the face that may grace one of America's most admired coins could be the wife of a future literary giant, immortalized in silver by her landlord, and never officially confirmed by anyone. Turn the coin over, and there's a second story most people miss entirely. The reverse shows a fasces, a bundle of wooden rods bound tightly together around an axe. To the Romans, it symbolized strength through unity and the authority of the state. Weinman wrapped that fasces in an olive branch, the ancient symbol of peace. Put together, the message was deliberate and timely. America in 1916 was standing on the edge of the First World War, prepared to defend itself, but longing for peace. One numismatist described the design's message as a modern version of "Don't tread on me." Of course, the symbolism was lost on a lot of people. Confused Americans looked at the strange bundle and called it the battle axe dime or even the golf dime. The Mercury dime almost stumbled out of the gate. Production was held up because the lettering wasn't distinct enough, and then vending machine and pay telephone makers complained the new coins jammed their equipment. The rims had been struck too high. Weinman lowered the relief and pulled the letters back from the rim to fix it. Because of these delays, the first new dimes weren't released until late in 1916, and the Mint had to hurriedly keep striking the old Barber dimes just to meet demand. That delay set up the single most famous coin in the entire series. Late in 1916, the Denver Mint received an urgent order to strike quarters instead, so its production of the new dime was cut short at just 264,000 pieces. To put that in perspective, Philadelphia struck more than 22 million dimes that same year. The 1916 D became the great key date, the one coin with a mintage under 1 million. By the 1930s, kids and collectors filling coin boards across America realized it was the one hole they could almost never fill from pocket change. Today, Even a well-worn 1916 D in barely collectible condition can bring hundreds of dollars, and a pristine example with sharp detail has sold for over $200,000. It's also, predictably, one of the most counterfeited coins in American numismatics, which is exactly why authentication matters so much on this date. There's one more detail every Mercury dime collector learns to obsess over: the bands. On the reverse, the fasces is bound by horizontal bands across its middle, and on a sharply struck coin, those central bands are fully separated, with a clean line splitting them. Collectors call this full bands. It sounds like a tiny thing, but it's the difference between an ordinary coin and a prized one. Those bands sit at the highest point of the design, so they're the first detail to go soft on a weak strike or to wear away in circulation. A full bands Mercury dime is proof the coin was struck with full force and survived in exceptional shape, and the premium for it can be enormous. The Mercury dime ran from 1916 to 1945, through the Roaring Twenties, through the Great Depression that paused production entirely in 1932 and 1933, and through the Second World War. It was the last dime the United States struck in 90% silver before the modern era. When President Franklin Roosevelt died in 1945, the nation replaced Weinman's Winged Liberty with the Roosevelt dime we still carry today. Chosen in part to honor the president's connection to the fight against polio, the March of Dimes. So the next time someone hands you a worn silver dime with wings, remember what you're holding. Not Mercury. A liberty of the mind, possibly modeled on a poet's wife, carrying a quiet message about war and peace on the eve of America's bloodiest century, and named forever after the wrong god. That is the Mercury dime, a small silver masterpiece that has been misunderstood beautifully for over 100 years.